Hey guys, and welcome back to the Modern Housewife podcast. I finally roped Doug in here.
The Modern Housewife and Her Husband podcast.
Okay. We do a podcast together every single week, for those of you guys who don't know, together, called the Digital Income Family, in the same exact outfit and the same exact spot. So it might be confusing, but today I wanted to switch it up, and eventually I want to get guests on here. I want to get my mom on.
No way. There's no way she's coming on.
I think
0%
I'd have to bribe her.
Yeah.
I don't know what she wants, but she'd be so entertaining. People love her. Like
Yarn.
I had her answer questions. Yarn. She wants yarn. All she does is knit down there in Mexico. I had her answer knit and sew. Anyways, I had her answer questions about Mexico, like moving to Mexico on Instagram. She's totally fine. I just think if it was so like.
But not if it was her answering them.
She was the one answering.
What?
She said, "Don't show me," but I put her face small.
Oh, what?
She doesn't really care.
I imagine like those TikToks. It's like, Mom. And you're like in the face like this. You're like,
I used to do that
how many
back
tacos
in
do you eat per day?
2015, 2014.
I know.
They didn't care because I had no audience, but now they think like the world watches. Okay, anyways, today we're going to do a podcast on our 6 marriage mistakes. I told Doug.
6?
Well, 3 for me, 3 for you. I told Doug to write 3. He said he only got 2. I'm like, well, maybe one will come to you because you know there's like thousands. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that.
I tell Haley that I have to, as I clean my glasses, I have to hear what she says first to know what kind of mistakes we're talking about.
I wrote on the card that Annabelle delivered to you in your office, make them serious or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, we've been married for 6 years or 7.
7.
Oh man, I was going to do 6 mistakes at 6 years, but it's 7 years.
This is the 7th year.
Okay, well,
so
then
we're coming up on 7 years.
See, I wasn't all wrong.
I think, right?
Anyways, all right, let's get into it. Alrighty, these are real. You know, I always go there. People don't like it. They want to keep it light, and I'm like, not really.
It just depends on how real we're being here.
What are you gonna say?
I don't know. We're gonna find out.
I feel like we've had a pretty easy marriage, but
it's been nice.
It's not as hard as I hear some people's. But
I think it's because we spend 24/7 together.
24/7.
24/7.
Yeah. The day Doug leaves for something, I'm like, that was nice. Not like before he leaves, but like, you know, when he gets back.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let's get on. Do you want to do yours first?
No.
Oh, gosh. Okay. All right. The number one.
Well, we already ruined it by talking about our other podcast.
Oh, by the way, I'm doing a joint. This doesn't even make any sense. I was like, what are you saying? But we did a podcast on Digital Income Family talking about working 20 hours a week and managing our home and our business together. And we talked about having a shared vision, which leads me to my first one. So if you guys want to also watch us ramble for that one, it was a ramble.
It was a ramble.
He thinks we should redo it. I'm like, whatever, just leave it. I'll link it down below. And it kind of goes along with the first mistake that we made for this one. But the very first mistake that I've made in marriage is not, it takes it way down, like when I get serious, but not following God's will for my life.
Oh, that wasn't my first one.
Well, obviously not.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I think like for so long we had actually.
Listen, that is one of my mistakes, but mine's phrased differently, but go on.
Okay. But anyways, and then we go to you.
Just go ahead.
Okay. So as far as like what I'm saying, I feel that as a Christian woman that I'm trying to follow more. If you guys follow my podcast and you knew me years ago, you might think, who the heck has she become? Like, she's so blah now. I don't know. People think you're too serious, or I don't know. I used to be more like, more beat boppy, like
beat boppy.
You know, more.
Yeah, you kind of floated around life and like kind of just did whatever.
Lighthearted.
Easily influenced.
I don't want to say that. Easily influenced.
Yeah.
Vain. Just any negative. Just kidding. But just, you know, like a young girl that didn't have any sense.
Yeah.
Just making content for entertainment.
It's my first time on the podcast, so I don't know what's happening right now. I'm gonna keep going.
It's just like
I don't know how heavy you're going.
Oh,
keep going.
It gets heavy, yeah. Okay, so anyways, I was like that for a long time. And so because of that, I followed the world's way for my life, which is mom boss vibes, which is make a lot of money and sacrifice everything else, your marriage, your family. And I didn't do a lot of that really because I always felt pulled towards God, but it wasn't like full on like following God's will, which for me is being a homemaker number one and putting my husband in the number one leadership role. So then I started all these businesses and I was like, and I don't regret any of that. And neither do you, obviously. No, that's why we're here. But it wasn't ever like, it was just hard because you didn't have the mental state I did.
Yeah.
And so that is a not a regret. I don't regret anything, but like a mistake. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get you. But you see, mine is kind of phrased a little bit
differently. We're going back and forth, by the way.
I know. Mine's phrased a little bit differently. But basically, the way that I would look at this is that my mistake was just believing, not just believing you, but like it's gonna sound bad, okay? But my mistake was just following you blindly because I believed in you so much.
Yes.
Okay, I believe Haley can do anything in the world. She can absolutely do anything. She could take it over. She could do whatever she wants, and she's just super powerful. Okay, Haley can do anything. But my role as a husband should have been, hey, let's kind of put this in check and like let's step back and talk about things and figure out what we should be doing. And I needed to become more of an active leader. So my first marriage mistake, I would say, is letting you do those things.
You were okay with letting me do them.
No, yeah. But I mean, letting you do those things without trying to think about what the family dynamic would be in the future.
Yes. Okay. And
I
think like this all and we both have the same mistake here, obviously. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mine is like not, and I didn't know what he wrote, but like not having, not following God's will for my life, which is all the things that he said. Mm-hmm. And his was kind of just, and this is like a lot of men and women, like just the world, a lot of, this isn't really turning into a Christian podcast, but it just is inevitably because I'm really trying to go that way. I'm trying to be better. Okay. So it'll be sprinkled in there just based off of my beliefs, and so even if you don't, subscribe to that mentality or to, to the Christian way, I don't know, is what it is. Anyways. So side note, but as far as like Doug, I think a lot of men are like that. They're just like, let your wife do whatever, and these are just total examples. This isn't us or anyone I'm judging, but examples would be, let your wife just go and like party with her friends every weekend. It's what she likes to do. She's a socialite or, and when I say let your wife, I just mean support it and don't even question it. Yeah. Or whatever. Yeah.
Like you
just
always,
let it happen. Let things happen.
You want to be supportive of like the right decisions. And the thing is, and this is going to lead me into my next mistake, which I can jump into my mistake in a second, but you let them do things, but you don't let it happen without first considering like what
the repercussions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. Haley was just like I said, super powerful and strong and like can do everything that she wants. But she was like, for instance, she'd be like, you should quit your job.
Yeah. Which we don't regret.
I don't regret. But I could have been like, well, let me think about this for a second.
Well, you did.
I thought about it, but I didn't think about it in a sense of like, who am I as a man?
Yeah.
Who am I as a leader?
Where will this go for the family dynamic? Who am I as a father?
What is going to happen? Yeah. I never thought that we had come into a time where I was being more of a homemaker than Haley at one point because Haley had to work so much.
When I was a YouTuber.
When she was a YouTuber and doing those things. And so... that was a rough one to understand and learn. Now, am I still fully supportive of her doing stuff like that? Yes. Should I have set some kind of like boundaries or thoughts on things in terms of like, so that way I still have an active leadership role position in the family? Yeah, I probably should have.
And this is all hindsight. Okay. It's not like this anymore.
No.
Like we have a totally different business, totally different life. We've
changed.
Come full circle. We understand like what the heck happened to us. I do think like it stems from what we saw like as children. Yeah. And just our upbringing. My mom always was the logical, like, financial supporter of my dad's entrepreneurial dreams. So I took after my dad, and so did my sister. We're big dreamers. I'm like, dude, I'd rather die than work for anybody else. I'd rather eat beans. And so I'll sacrifice anything. I won't submit to my husband, which is a biblical phrase. I didn't know really what I was saying. I wasn't saying those things out loud, but my actions were, Yep. And so then for him, like your dad was always the breadwinner, but also your whole family. I think I always like to joke. It's a Santa Cruz NorCal thing. Everybody I know from NorCal, which is Northern California, it's just what we say.
It's
I don't know.
Technically Central California.
But, Santa Cruz-y. They're just like hippies. Like they're not, but they're just so chill.
You
is the
just
word.
laid back. You
all
just let
Doug's
things happen.
Friends.
Do whatever happens.
Just float around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not so like tight knit, like or tight knit, tights.
No, wound up.
Whatever, wound up like SoCalers.
No, not all
they're
the time.
Like rats.
I'm not constantly fighting for a parking space. You know what I'm saying?
It's like chill up there.
I just whatever.
There's like no
happens.
freeways.
Yeah, there's no freeway.
Anyways, and so his family just kind of like takes life, and they're like, we love them for it. Like they are so peaceful compared to my family. Oh my gosh, they love to stress about anything.
Yeah, and so I feel like, I forgot. I don't remember the French term that it is that to like laissez-faire or whatever, however you say it. Like I don't just let life happen. I shouldn't have let life happen. Yes, not anymore. Now
but you did for so long.
I did for a very long time.
I think that's a lot of men. I do. And so anyways, that's funny. We both have like
even if you think you're in a leadership role, which men may be in the family, they still they still are like that though. They still are, well, whatever happens, happens. My friends are like, oh, well, I mean, I didn't get the promotion, whatever. Like, okay.
Yeah. A lot of guys are like that.
Yeah.
And women.
I'm still going to go back to my job.
Yeah.
Or, whatever the case may be. They're not like, I need to make a change, or I need to do something different, or I need to be an active leader in the family, which now I see as different.
Yeah.
But that was my first mistake, was that. But the second mistake that I would roll into because of that, the reason that I was so like that is because I had no vision for what the family should look like.
That was mine. You can't curse on the podcast.
Sorry.
Totally got to curse in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, not having a clear vision.
But it's because I didn't have a clear vision because I'm not saying it like this. I was raised with morals, okay? But I was not raised with a textbook of morals, okay? Like the Bible, okay? Yeah. So I had no biblical morals.
Men are, like, as in a nutshell, men are the leaders. Women are to submit to them.
Yes.
People get so triggered, but it doesn't mean what you think. It's just like they're created to be a helpmeet.
Yes.
They're not created to be a mom boss.
And so because I did not have that, I was okay with Haley being mom boss.
And I actually didn't really have that either.
Yeah.
Like, my mom was a nurse and she supported everybody for so long, through my dad's entrepreneurial endeavors. So I always saw my mom working all the time. I didn't want to do that. That's why I was working so hard to get out of that. I didn't want to work 8 to 5.
But then she is working like that. Like,
So the vision is like so important. I actually wrote before marriage and also changing it at each stage of marriage. Because like when we got married, like we never said, oh, you're going to be a stay-at-home mom. I was like, maybe I'll work a little bit. Because my mom worked all the time. So the idea of being a stay-at-home mom wasn't glorified in my household.
No. And Haley never wanted to do that just to be a stay-at-home mom. She did it because she wanted to pursue other things. Like the day when you told me you wanted to quit your job, I was totally cool with it.
Oh, yeah. He didn't
I was like, quit your job. Do it. Yeah. Like, I'll support us so you can do the things that you want.
Yeah.
But the thing that she wanted was never like, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Which was crazy.
Well, I quit before I had a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so once I had that child, I was like, stay-at-home mom.
But some people we know are like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. And it's like, you're not even married yet.
Yeah, you don't even have a kid. But that's how it should be.
I know.
But it's so hard to know that if you don't have a mom that has those really strong values. My mom would say that she had no choice, and for a lot of years she did it in different things, no shade to her, like, at all. She would have she'd been the best stay-at-home mom ever. But it just didn't turn out. Like, life is crazy. So anyways, but yeah, like, we didn't sit down before marriage and be like, so...
We were never like,
you want to make a lot of money? Do we want to live here? Do we want to sacrifice? We want 2-income household. We had no.
I think it's because we spent our entire premarital counseling, which is an experience for me, by the way.
Oh yeah, I made him go to like his first pastor.
We had a bunch of stuff.
Also, we were not equally yoked. Do you know that phrase, Doug?
Yoked? No, yoked is like how buff you are.
Clearly,
like, yo, that guy's yoked. That's what I think.
My God,
what, dude?
Listen, okay. Obviously, for those of you guys who are religious, you're laughing. Like, I'm dying inside. I'm containing myself. Okay, I went into... Okay, that's the biggest mistake. 0. Is we were not equally yoked. This is a very famous biblical phrase. It's like saying... Like, what is water?
It's like, what is water?
I have a tear. Like, being equally yoked means... unequally yoked.
I just see doing squats
you need to get it together. Okay, so in the Bible, this is us all the time now.
It is.
Doug's like, you've been intrused to the Christian
I'm diving
faith.
head deep into the Christian faith.
So Doug was being introduced when I took him to like this really, I don't even know what it was, like a super evangelical church. Not evangelical, it was like Baptist. Like, I don't know where we were in Redondo Beach when we were like 21 and they were wearing robes.
Yeah, we'll step back to that in a second.
Okay, I'm just saying, it was the first time you ever stepped a foot in a church is when I took him when we were dating. And he was like, I don't know about this.
Dude,
and it was a weird place.
The pastor stopped us.
Well, we weren't leaving. We left at the end.
No, we left at the end. We were trying to leave the church.
He always said...
Again. And he stuck his hand out and stopped us, and I was like, "Am I gonna fight
someone?" Let me just say, Doug's was not raised religious.
I was not.
So all of this stuff is like kind of around religion because we are now both actively pursuing, Christianity and following God's will for our life. That's the whole point of this. That's our biggest mistakes all stem from this. So, but when we got married, a number 0 mistake, negative, whatever.
Yeah. This is pre-mistake, pre-marriage
I married
mistake.
someone. Don't regret it. I married someone that I'm so freaking thankful and blessed that he was open to it. He was like, my dad told him, like, when you asked for my hand, whatever, she's religious. Like, what did he tell you?
He told me that,
or she follows God. He doesn't say.
No, it wasn't just that. He said
my
that
dad's Catholic,
I needed to do two things. I needed to, one, make sure that our children, our future children that we have, we preserve their innocence as long as possible. And two, that Haley has a special connection with God that no one else can understand but her.
Yeah.
And that's what he told me. He's like, you're just going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
He's like, you're just going to
My dad's Catholic, so. But anyways.
He's like, you're just going to have to learn how to live with that.
So Doug was
like,
always on board with it.
Yeah. I was like, I'm okay with that.
But
That's
Doug wasn't like necessarily an atheist. He didn't know. He was open to anything.
I was raised
uninterested.
This is what I think I told our pastor, I think, when we had our, this is what one of the recent churches we were at, I was talking to our pastor. And, when we had like this little group thing that we were doing, it wasn't a small group or anything like that. It was some other discussion. But he asked me, he's like, well, what were you raised? And I wasn't raised anything. Or no, I said, my parents gave me the choice to figure out what you wanted. And he's like, oh, that means you weren't raised anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you don't make a choice on your own. Yeah.
Well, eventually you are trying.
Yeah, eventually now I am, but it's like up until that point of me being in that room, I didn't make a decision on what I wanted.
And so
I was like, am I Buddhist? Like, what?
So, anyways, for our own kids, we are going to say you need to marry someone that's equally yoked. You're gonna hear this all the time now. He hears stuff in the like biblical phrases like salt and light. Yeah. That like famous Bible verse. He's like, what the heck's that? Like at the church.
He was like, look, Doug, your left hand cannot know what your right hand is doing. I was like,
that's a Bible
like,
verse.
what are you doing? What are you talking
basically,
about?
You can't share. Oh, look, I donated to this charity. Like out loud.
I know. I get it. Yes.
He gets it now. The salt and light thing. He doesn't know. Anyways, okay, so that's where we're at. Okay, and so he didn't know what the heck he was, and I shouldn't have been doing that. Like I should have married someone. I just wasn't. I was really like rocky on the faith. I wasn't following it really. I had it there, but I wasn't like actively like every day reading. So, and again, so blessed that he wasn't a person that's like against. And so now he's more interested than he's ever been before.
Yeah, actually, I was just reading an email from our pastor being like, you want to get coffee sometime? And I was like,
he's going to talk to the pastor and get coffee. The pastor's 36 at our new church. So
yeah, he's cool.
And so many things. Doug reads them devotionals every single night. Like never thought.
I'm like reading it.
The fact that I never thought that this would happen is a terrible marriage mistake.
It's so funny because I'm reading it and I'm looking at Haley like, is this like this is how it goes? Like, because I don't know the story either. Yeah. I'm like learning it myself.
And so the girls know, especially Annabelle. She's like, Daddy's learning, like with me. Whatever. Nothing's perfect. Okay. So that's.
Oh my goodness.
I had to explain that because it sounds.
She said it wrong the other day.
Daddy's not a Christian.
She was like, Daddy, you're not a Christian. I was like, what do you mean? And
you were like, Annabelle, Daddy's learning.
I was like, I wasn't raised. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's not how I was raised.
We're still figuring it out.
She still looks at me like I'm funny.
She's smart. Anyways, we're all learning together. It's actually a really good experience. But, okay, number one, not following God's will for my life. Number two is, before marriage. So there's that. That should have been that's a big mistake. Well, don't regret it, like, obviously. But.
Yeah, but like even getting married, like in the act of marriage, like this is where we were going with this.
Okay, where were we?
The premarital counseling that we should have had discussions on like, what do we want in our life? Like, what do we want our family to look like?
This pastor didn't go through that.
No, all he did was just ask me if you were my pathway to God. Like,
I don't remember.
Well, yeah, I talked with him too. And so he basically was trying to get me on board to be Christian. And that's what a lot of our premarital counseling was spent on, was like, him asking me if I was open to a lot of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm open to whatever. What do you think I'm marrying this lady? And so
you never know.
I know, it's true.
I don't think I would have married Doug if he was like, I definitely wouldn't have if you were. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So go to your next one, I guess.
Oh no, I chose the second one, which was the
okay,
visual
fine.
one. So you got to go to your third
one.
one.
Oh man, I need to look up something on Chrome real quick. Okay,
what?
So
you got to look up something?
The third one, I just wanted to throw out there because it encompasses so many things, and it's the best marriage book. And I don't recall every single thing in it. That's why I wanted to look it up to refer. But I will link the best marriage book, Doug and I, the only one we've ever read together. What's it called?
Yeah, His Needs, Her Needs.
His Needs, Her Needs. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, if
like
you're struggling in your marriage, just stop fighting with your spouse and read this book. Like, just stop. Don't even speak. Just read this book for like 2 days straight. Like, literally, it has everything you could ever need. If you're on the brink of a divorce, if you are questioning thing, read the book. Read the book.
No, the book's good.
But anyways, like, biggest mistake is not doing these things, which absolutely makes sense. You will probably remember more than I do.
I would say that.
What is the book about?
Well, what the book is about is the book is understanding that like each person has a specific way that basically they get their bucket filled, which is another book actually.
It's actually by a therapist who like has
I don't remember who.
Okay, well, it's written. It's interesting. Like, it totally is. It's so interesting because it's written by, I think, a therapist or marriage counselor, probably, same thing. And this dude has like seen thousands of divorces.
Yeah.
So he's basically summed up why people get divorced and why marriages start going down.
Yeah, and so there's basically
what to avoid.
There's basically a list of like generalized needs that each person has, each husband and wife has, right? And when those needs aren't met or fulfilled, they get filled by someone else, and that's something else.
Yeah,
and so
it'll explain everything,
and that is what starts to like seep in and do these things. And he talks about it explicitly of like, you know, something happen, you know, it's not being fulfilled at home, and somebody sees it happen in the office, and then that leads to this thing, and that leads to this thing, and it could be so simple as like
cheating makes sense when he explains why it happens.
Yeah,
all of a sudden you go from like he's a cheater to there's something missing
to like
there.
I could have done something better.
Yeah.
Like, and it's because needs aren't being met.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's a good one. I would say like, so the mistake you were saying is like,
what were some of them? It was very interesting.
I mean, there were things
recreational.
Like, well, it's like, there are things that each person wants or needs, and they rank them.
Different for male and female.
Yeah. And it's different for male and female, the top ones generally, but the list is the same across the board. There's like, you know, quality time, like, recreational activities.
But what was so interesting is the finite details. Quality time isn't just hanging out on a date night. It's like not date night stuff. It's like he calculated how many hours you need to actively speak to your spouse a day. I don't know. It was like 2 hours. That's why you see these, like our neighbor next door. They're like 80 something years old, still married. I mean, our parents are still married. So we are so lucky to see our parents still married. But they talk non-freaking
I've always seen my parents talk to each other.
My parents won't shut up to each other. They tell each other everything all the time. And so that was interesting. Like understanding that some people have a disconnect. Well, like, do you even talk to your spouse that much? So
yeah, there's things like that. There's things like
intimacy. Basically, for intimacy, this is always new to me because my mom and dad didn't ever talk about that. They're like you know, traditional, so they don't talk about anything weird like that. But intimacy is interesting because lots of times the wife, getting real, but the wife doesn't want to do it because she's tired, whatever. You should just do it anyways, which I can't say that's always me because sometimes if you're postpartum, there's always a thing, sickness. I know it is. It's women, so yellow. But, you know, that's a need that you can't keep dissing.
No, because
you have to give first. That's the number one thing.
Yes. You have to be able to do those things
for
first.
all of the things.
Yes. And you have to actively take that first step in doing that.
Even if something is not right.
Yes.
Someone's got to do it. You know?
And so it's crazy because the way that this guy lines things up is that if that need doesn't get met, it gets fulfilled in other ways.
Yeah.
And if it's at the top of the totem pole in terms of what's needed from either party, it quickly deteriorates from there.
Yeah, and it's years, crazy. You know, that's why you see like a lot of divorces and with people in their midlife, 40s, whatever. That's what, when I was growing up, it was always like people in their 40s getting divorced. Like all my friends in middle school, divorces left and right. I'm like, what's happening?
Friends, the parents.
Oh yeah, yeah, obviously. But yeah, like it's because it's just built up year after year after you have neglect for certain things. Another thing that is comical, because we have nothing of interest other than our business, which really helps bind us, but is recreational companionship is really high on the male need list, which I was like, what? Yeah. But that's why our families are still together. This is why I think my parents fish together.
Yeah, and my parents go antiquing together, and they like to go
drive cars together.
They go look at rocks.
That's why you see some people they divorce in like at least people in my past like childhood, and I'm like, well, she was like a wanderluster. She's always or whatever. She's always traveling with her friends, and he's always golfing. Like that's not a recreational, and there also has to be a certain amount of hours per week for that. It's all very kind of scientific, but that's so interesting.
Yeah,
we don't have that, so I was like,
we do have that. It's the business. The business.
Yeah.
Is the thing that we do.
I would like it to be tennis one day. That's like my
tennis.
when I'm not pregnant.
It's so funny.
I could do it while I'm pregnant, but
that kind of falls in line with what my mistake would be, and I think that my mistake was just assuming that marriage is like just something that happens and that it's easy and that it's not something that you have to actively work at.
Yeah.
And you absolutely have to actively work at it like all the time.
It's like
absolutely all the time. You have to sit there and think like, what can I be doing for my spouse? Like, how am I supposed to be making them happy? How am I supposed to be getting their needs to be met? Because if I give to them, then they'll give it to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it really should be. And so a lot of people, when they get into married, they each have their own idea of what marriage is like and what they think it's going to be like and what they want and their needs. And it's like, well, she's not meeting my needs on this thing. She doesn't let me buy my car parts and she doesn't let me do my stuff. That's not the way marriage works. So I think the mistake that I had going into this was that marriage is supposed to be a certain way. Yeah. But it's not.
I mistake, 7 here, we're going to list, but 7 is thinking it's going to be, it is easy for us, I think, but it's thinking it's like going to be easy all the time. Yeah. You have to constantly take mental note of like the lack. Yeah. Like what you can improve. But anyways, that's pretty much it for today's podcast. This is sort of a short one. Brutal.
Holy
that's
moly.
How mine are.
Is that really how these go?
I like them. I think
I don't
it's fun.
listen to them, so it's because I listen to Haley talk all day anyways.
Don't. Anyways, if you guys like this podcast, if you want Doug on again, we'd love to hear like what you guys would like him to talk about or us. And
don't forget to leave reviews.
I was going to say
Apple Podcast reviews. Yeah.
I would seriously appreciate it because I love this podcast. Yeah. Even though, it's kind of like not something that's doing anything for me. I love it.
Haley's becoming the helpmeet. She's going to let me run the business and do the things, but she ain't going to let go of this podcast. This is her thing.
This is a nap time. Like, it's all right. Yeah. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for listening or watching. I also have all these on a YouTube channel if you guys want to watch us.
YouTube channel.
Or you can listen if you want to listen, and I'll link all that down below. But anyways, thank you for listening or watching, and I'll see you next one. Bye, guys.